Okay, so let's take a look at multiplying a matrix by a constant. I'm just going to focus on part A, -5 times matrix A. So when you multiply a matrix by a constant, you could rewrite it. If we plan to do this by hand, it's not too horrible, depending on, like, I guess, how complicated the math would be. So if we looked at -5 times A, that is like saying a -5 multiplied by matrix A. And matrix A is -4, -12, 10, and 5. And so lucky for us, when you multiply a constant by a matrix, and let me draw that 5 a little nicer for you, it actually goes the way you think it will go. Pretty much what you're doing is you're multiplying every element in matrix A by the -5. So if we do this together, it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like distributing. I'm not going to formally use that word, but you can kind of think of it that way. If we say -5 times -4, we are going to get +20. Same idea, if we multiply the -5 times 10, we should get -50. -5 times 12 is -60. And -5 times +5, oh, excuse me, -5 times -12 is +60. Gotta be careful. So I'll erase that negative sign, but -5 times +5 is -25. So let's just double check. I'm feeling like we're all good. And that is the result of -5A if you'd like to do this by hand. Now, one more benefit of having the actual TI is that your TI will do this math for you as well. Once you get used to the procedure of calling up matrices, it ends up being pretty fast. Problems like this, you probably see me leaning towards multiplying by hand, but I'd like to show you, and then we'll get used to this as we go. So what I'd like to kind of show you depends on what type of TI you have. I'll show you two ways. We're going to pull up our TI. And in order for us to talk about matrices, our number one key, I know it used to be our favorite key is like second trace because we've done a lot of mathematics with that. But with matrix math, I don't know if you can see it, but right above the X inverse key, there are the words matrix. Sometimes it's spelled out fully and sometimes it's abbreviated depending on what type of TI you have. So if you press second X inverse, this will pull up the matrix menu. Now there's three parts of the menu. There's the names where you call up a matrix name. If you use the right arrow key one more time, there's matrix math, and we'll deal with that a little bit later. And there's also the edit. That's how you enter in matrices. So you can see, depending on if someone's used your calculator before, if there are dimensions right by each name of the matrix, you can probably see they've already been edited. If you have not used the calculator before, you'll notice that there's nothing located right by the names. There's no dimensions. So what I like to do is I kind of like to keep things consistent with the problem. So I will name my matrix A as in my calculator. I don't like to switch things up. I always want to keep things consistent. So what we do if we want to enter matrix, remember, when you just press second X inverse, you're on matrix name, but you want to actually enter items into the matrix. So we're going to press edit. And depending on what the name of your matrix is, you can move your cursor down to select the matrix under the edit menu. But we already had A highlighted, and that's the name of the matrix in the problem. So we'll press enter. And if you recall, let's go back really quick and let's talk about the dimensions of our actual matrix A. So let me switch back so you all can see. And if you look at our matrix A right now, if you can draw that in for you, please notice matrix A has 2 rows and 2 columns. So we've got ourselves a 2 by 2 matrix. So let's go back and enter that into our TI. So we can say 2, move the arrow key over, 2, and you notice it automatically adjusts. If you press enter, right now we have a place to enter in all of our elements. So at this point, what I'd like to do is enter all the elements of my actual matrix. So if you remember, you can always look back. You'll see at the bottom left of the screen, it tells you where you're located in the matrix. I have a nice TI-84C or color, and they've kind of advanced things a bit where you can actually see where you're at in the matrix. But I remember when I used to use a TI-83, sometimes the matrix is more spread out and you can't exactly tell where you're at if it's large. So the bottom left always gives you an indication of where your location is. So notice I'm in column 1, row 1 of matrix A. So I'd like to enter in a -4 to that element. And you can either use the arrow key, press enter first, please. You can use the arrow key to get to the next line or column, or you can use enter. So notice how it moved over. It is highlighting row 1, column 2. It's telling you this at the bottom left. We are going to enter in a 10. Notice we have pressed enter and it moved to row 2, column 1. And we are going to enter in a -12. Press enter and it automatically went to row 2, column 2, and we'll enter in a 5. So once you've entered this in the edit mode, you can press quit to get out. So second mode. And now you're at the home screen. Now, if you want to do matrix math, what you need to do is you'll start using the keys on your calculator. So if you'd like to multiply this matrix by -5, first thing I'll say is -5, and then multiplication. And then I want to be able to call up my A. So in order to do that for my matrices, I'll press second, X inverse. But this time, instead of going to edit, I want to call up the name of matrix A. So notice it's highlighted on number 1. So I'll select that. And notice it shows up on the screen. So now all you do is simply press enter, and it should give you the same matrix that we got. So let's cross our fingers and hope we did the math right. Maybe I'll even screenshot that, and then I can go back and see. And let's check back. Let's see if I can, sometimes it won't paste, but we'll see. Oh, it pasted below. Okay, so let's see if I can. I don't know if you guys can see. Notice that it has successfully calculated what we did by hand, and it's pretty clear as to what the matrix looks like. So that's another way to do it if you're interested. Sometimes I do this when we have a little more complicated matrix math, and you'll see that in a second. Now, before we sign off on this problem, I do want to point out there is one kind of cool feature in the TI-84 in some of the operating systems. So if you have that, you may be interested, and sometimes I use this and sometimes I don't. We want to do this one more time. You could actually enter matrices directly into the screen. So if you'd like, and this kind of helps if you're dealing with one matrix at a time. And you kind of use whatever you'd like whatever kind of feels more comfortable for you. But if you wanted to multiply -5 times matrix A, and you have the ability to do so with your operating system, what I can do is I can start off again with -5 with a multiplication sign. And I can actually enter matrix A in directly if I press alpha and zoom. And so notice on the soft keys, we used to use alpha fraction as kind of like a shortcut, but we could actually go and use matrix, MTRX, and that's kind of their old abbreviation. And you can talk about the dimensions. So if we have a 2 by 2, notice that we're highlighted. If you have something different, you can move the cursor to select that. But we do have a 2 by 2. So make sure you go down, press enter for OK. And notice it gives you a matrix to enter in right away. And then we can go in and enter the elements of matrix A with using the right arrow key. Here we would not be using enter because it will automatically find the answers for you. So just kind of make sure you are moving the arrow key to enter in your matrix, and be careful because sometimes it ends up being, it gives you a little trouble sometimes. It gives me some trouble. I need to get back to where my element was. So I should be entering a -12. And be careful also. Sometimes when you enter a minus sign instead of a negative, it causes some issues. So if you get like an error, you know what to do. So check this out. Press enter. Voila, you've got it. So if you prefer to use that technique, if your calculator allows, go for it. Sometimes it's less to remember. But don't kind of be scared about using the second x inverse. It's a little more powerful. We'll end up using that anyways with a lot of the other types of matrix math. So I hope this helps. I'm going to see you in the next example.